And they would say that inflation is really deflationary because at the end of the day, if you have less discretionary income to spend at the end of the month, that is deflationary in your world. But it leads to price destruction. So as currency or fiat currency shrinks, then guess what? The prices go with it. It's the expansion of the money supply that creates inflation. So when you have the contraction of the money supply, you get the opposite.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, today on September 14th, we got the PPI numbers. And I guess if you're worried about inflation, they were probably pretty good. If you're worried about the economy, they're probably pretty bad. But let's figure it out together. Russell Stone is on with us. You find him at Scranton, SCRANTONFG.com. And if you got a question or comment, shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. PPI numbers after following up the CPI numbers the other day, Russell, what is the picture?
Well, my expectation, and it's been pretty consistent, is we've had inflation in the last 2 years because of what the government is doing relative to printing money, relative to now raising interest rates to fight off inflation. But at the end of the day, the consumer's not cooperating. They're not showing up buying things, so the pricing structure is going to now go down across the board. It's not going to happen evenly across the board, but you're going to have the things that are in greatest demand. They're going to stay up for prices the longest, but the things that are not in demand, like cars and houses and stuff like that, you're going to see those prices start to come down as we have. We're seeing it in the housing sector. The housing market is slowly moving down. The cars are moving much faster as far as the price of used cars and used cars. The demand on both cars and housing is changing drastically because between inflation and rising interest rates, people don't have the extra money to buy things. It's very obvious, particularly when you go into stores, restaurants, supermarkets, stuff like that.
All right. So it's a question of things that you need and things that you want, right?
Correct. Things that you need, you're going to pay a higher price for a longer period of time. The things that you don't need, those things are going to accumulate and they're going to come down faster as the inventories need to be paid for and then moved on. Particularly, we're coming up on a new season. We're coming up on the winter season. So you got holiday changes coming. You got seasonal changes coming. You got school changes coming. And the inventories are gone from the previous summer and the spring. They're still out there in the shelves.
All right. So what's happening? Is this the start of the long-dreaded, long-awaited recession?
Yeah, I kind of laugh when people say recession. Well, you got Europe is clearly in a recession. Germany is on the verge of a depression. China's economy has contracted a multiple of 3 times, right? Russia's in the middle of a war with Ukraine, and they somehow think that we're not in a recession already. You really have to work hard to believe that we are in a recession already. We're going through a much needed deflationary cycle, which will squeeze out all the unnecessary credit that is in the system. The devil in the details is the excess credit. The world is drunk on debt, and between the cost of the debt and the fact that it's robbing production is the problem that we're having. The cost of interest is just killing the economy. That's getting paid by somebody.
All right. So are you telling me that the inflationary scare is over? The cycle's been broken, and now we'll just see lower prices or stable prices? You really thinking that?
Well, here's the argument. And Elliott Wave theory would make this argument as well. And they would say that inflation is really deflationary because at the end of the day, if you have less discretionary income to spend at the end of the month, that is deflationary in your world. But it leads to price destruction. So as currency or fiat currency shrinks, then guess what? The prices go with it. It's the expansion of the money supply that creates inflation. So when you have the contraction of the money supply, you get the opposite. You get deflation. And every 80 years or so, we go through a deflationary cycle. 1718, 1835, 1929. Here we are doing it all over again for the same reasons. The politicians don't have a way to grow the economy and keep it in the confines of gold. So gold isn't supporting our currency, nor can it, because there's just too many transactions taking place in our dollar to contain it to gold. Need to learn on that out.
What happens if we got this deflationary thing going on and then oil breaks $100 a barrel?
People will drive a lot less. They'll ride bikes. They'll ride motorcycles and mopeds. They'll adjust.
So my e-bike is a good investment then, huh?
Well, it's just people will adapt to it, right? When prices spiked up, small car sales went through the roof. Go back to the 70s, remember when we drive around in big old Chevys and Caddies and Fords? They were big, heavy, and lucky. And then Japan started making these smaller, more fuel-efficient cars. Well, then the oil embargo hit in 74, and it changed the thinking of everybody. Everybody started to gravitate towards smaller vehicles. We always adapt. That's the good thing about the American market, is we will adapt. If oil prices go too high, more people are going to burn wood. Or they'll look for alternative ways to heat their house. We're pretty creative when it comes to reacting to what the economy is throwing at us. And this will be no different. If oil prices go too high, people are going to do something different. The supply of oil will go off the charts. The price will come down.
All right. So I thought Biden was doing like such good things. He's bringing the deficit down. I mean, look, he brought our troops home from Afghanistan in a week. Isn't he doing good things here?
He's got 5 degrees, right? 2 of them doctor's degrees. One was a PhD.
Married to a doctor.
It's one of his classes, all right? So we know not to listen to Mr. Biden. He hasn't done anything right, in my opinion, relative to the economy or foreign affairs. We need to get past the Biden thing and move on to the next chapter in this country's history. Okay,
so enough of the levity. Now, the way you deal with these people is praise their failures, right? Praise their failures, condemn our successes.
The way you get to these guys is you stop watching the media outlets that don't do their job. We need real journalists to expose the corruption. When you have a politician that sit there, a journalist that literally will sit there and say there's no evidence of any corruption between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and say it with a straight face, then you know that person is bought and paid for, right? You have politicians saying that as well. Some of them are always doing.
I thought he was doing a great job here. You really have burst my bubble here, Russell, Like I know I'm coming to.
I just got added to somebody's list.
Jeez. Man, I thought bringing the troops home in a week was a good thing, but I guess I was wrong,
Well, Kerry, here's what's wrong with that. He brought the troops home, but he left the citizens in Afghanistan. And all the tanks and planes and everything else.
Yeah, so much for nation building. A really good policy. This is a uniparty at work, weakening the country, fracturing the resolve of the citizens, and basically bringing us down to the lowest common denominator. So what, Russell, is the solution here on an individual level? Because whatever Washington does, there's nothing we can do about anyway, except to hopefully vote, and who knows what that's worth. If it's worth anything, we could debate that till the cows come home. But you got to be able to do something to protect your wealth and save yourself from these maniacs, right?
Yeah. So the greatest wealth ever created is in this environment, and the greatest wealth destroyed is in this environment. So the idea is you want to be proactive and not reactive. Don't wait until the tidal wave hits you. Don't wait until the problem is so big you can't handle it. What you need to do is understand this: real money versus fake money. I want to have as much real money in my possession as possible, gold and silver. Why do you want to own silver over gold? Because the ratio is 85-1 right now.
Right.
You can buy 85 silver coins for every 1 ounce of gold all day long. When the ratio goes back to 15-1, sell half your silver, buy gold, and you'll have 3 times more gold than you would have if you started out with all gold. So you
That's
want
if you
that
can
money.
get it. If you could get either one, if it gets to that point, Russell, it might reach a point where you can't buy gold and silver for any amount of money, right?
Right. So you don't want to have debt, pay off short-term debt. You don't want to have any unnecessary market exposure. It depends on what age you are, but if you're approaching retirement age, you really need to step aside, in my opinion, and just let the markets do what they're going to do and come back in at the bottom and really hit a home run, buy low, sell high. If you can't accumulate gold and silver because you don't have a resource, give me a call. I'll help anybody buy gold and silver while it's available. I don't charge for it. I do it as a service to clients and people. But at the end of the day, you have to be cognizant of your debt. You don't want to have unnecessary debt. It's not the time to go out and buy a car right now. It's better to save your money. And one of the things that people should consider, rather than banks, having too much money in banks, is to put money in a government-backed money market account that only uses treasury bills, T-bills only. There's a few of them out there. They're paying 5% roughly right now. They're 100% liquid. There's little or no. The fees are like 0.47, and you're grossing 5% right now. If interest rates continue to go up, great place to have money. You can link it to your bank so that you can have the least amount of money in the bank and the most amount of money directly backed by the U.S. government. FDIC insurance has $128 billion to protect about $10 trillion. Not nearly enough, right?
That should work out okay, right?
Yeah, it comes out to 1.28 pennies per dollar that they have to protect. So people shouldn't feel too good about FDIC insurance. But
They'll print money. They'll just print the difference, right?
But they only can print to the demand of the commercial lending. So if the commercial lending isn't lending because the interest rates are now too high, the government has handcuffs on them. They really can't print any money right now.
Yeah. All right. You're making us feel too good here. So we going to survive this thing, or
Yes, we will.
is it going to be like a fiction event?
The Civil War was much worse. We have been in worse times than this. But America has to wake up. We got lazy, we got sloppy, we didn't pay attention to who we were elected. We didn't test them at all as far as their constitutional commitments. We appoint judges that are useless, in my opinion. So we need to wake up and we'll go back to what made us a great country.
All right. Amen to that, brother. Thank you, Russell. So it's GrantonFG.com. That's where you find Russell. Questions, comments, KL@KerryLutz.com. The link to Russell's site is on our site, FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. In the show notes to this interview, while you're there, sign up for your free newsletter. Russell, a pleasure. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.